My 39M half-brother, 79M, has refused to acknowledge me since my birth. I was born into an unconventional family in South America in the 80s. My mother was in her early 20s when she met my father, who was in his mid-60s. Massive age gap. At the time they met, my father was widowed. He had 2 adult children from his prior marriage, a son, Raul, and a daughter, Claudia. My parents married and had me a couple years later. My father then passed away a couple years after I was born. I was too young to understand death, so it didn't affect me much. After his death, my mother and I moved to the USA. As for my half-siblings, Raul and Claudia, Claudia has always been a part of my life since I was born. She got along very well with my mother, even though Claudia was a few years older than my mother. Claudia didn't care at all about the awkwardness of the situation. To this day, we communicate regularly and see each other at least once every couple years. Claudia and my mother still talk regularly as well. Even though she's a few years older than my mother, she legit feels like a sister to me. She's always been a young spirit. She's been married, but never had children of her own. Raul, on the other hand, I never met him. As of today, I am 39 and he's 79. Raul and Claudia get along with each other. They live in the same city. Raul was so against the idea of his father marrying my mother that he decided to not acknowledge the situation at all, including my existence. Raul isn't some dumb person. He is now retired, but was a highly successful and very well-known doctor in his country. There are many publications about him online. He's well connected politically as well. For example, he's friends with a high-ranking senator of the country. Raul has children and grandchildren of his own. I never met his family. I am technically uncle to his children, who are roughly 10 to 15 years older than me. Throughout my whole life, I never understood why Raul didn't want to meet me. I don't talk about it much with Claudia because it's a sensitive topic. The only thing she told me was a conversation she had with Raul a few years back, where she said something to the extent of, "I'm sorry you felt the way you have, but you should know that you really missed out on a relationship with a very wonderful person." Up until very recently, I never really cared about reaching out to Raul. I always felt that it was his responsibility to reach out to me, and that it would be extremely out of place for me, being way younger than him, to make the initial effort. Now, for the first time in my life at the age of 39, I have a very strong desire to reach out to him. However, I only want to do so via sending him a letter. I have zero desire for in-person, phone call, or video call. If I were to send him a letter, it would be the very first time either of us made any contact with each other. The purpose of the letter is to express long-held emotions and provide closure for myself, not to seek reconciliation, but to articulate the hurt caused by his absence and to affirm my understanding of our estranged relationship before he passes away. He doesn't have much life left considering he was recently diagnosed with cancer and it's not looking good for him. My wife reviewed my draft letter and isn't in 100% agreement with it, namely because in the letter I am being very clear that I have zero desire to meet him. Although it's a respectful letter, it's not exactly nice. She thinks I should express my feelings, but don't mention anything about closing any possibility to meeting him. I'm not sure what to do.